Now, where were we? It's been a while. So we were working on Energym, full of energy, coffee and chocolate. Oh, it's delicious. How can we express this further? I'm going to duplicate that square, and I'm going to make this series of colours. All I'm doing is eyedroppery over it. I'm going to eyedropper this blue from over here. I'm eyedropping the colours from this package because I quite like them. I think they look lovely together. How do you decide what colours to use? Well, I'm doing it intuitively. Is that what you're doing? Yes, I'm doing it intuitively. I'm going, that looks delicious. I want it for chocolate, so it needs to be delicious. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to eyedroppery over it. Look at that. Oh, lovely. That's beautiful, isn't it? The trouble is, you see, like here, we've got too big of a contrast, haven't we, between this zigzaggy shape. I'm going to eyedropper a different colour for that. You know why? Because I need to be able to separate the word energy from it. And I thought if I make that a red instead of the white, it's got a little bit less contrast with the brown. And then we can make the word Energym, we can make that a light colour to stand out, white maybe, to stand out against that. I don't know if I'm digging that completely, but it was worth a stab. Let's try that in yellow. Ooh, that's a little better. I like that. That's got something going on, hasn't it? How about that? Whoa, I love it. That is beautiful. I really, really like that. That's nice. Look at that. Juicy. I don't actually really believe that. I just felt like saying it like that. I feel like the colour's not quite right, actually. I preferred it when it was black. Maybe my brown actually needs to be a little bit darker, a little bit richer. Let's put it that way. Let's make this a little bit richer. There we go. That's more like it. Now my red, because remember this was a white shape before, it's now sticking over the top. I'm going to select these two shapes using my group selection tool. I've got the David Bowie thing selected. I don't know what you call that shape. What is that shape? I wish I had a word for it. It's a lightning bolt. There you go. I've got the lightning bolt selected, and then I'm going to hold shift so that I can add to my selection. And I'm going to select this yellow rectangle, which is right behind it. I've clicked them both now. I've got them both selected. Let's go over to the Shape Builder tool, and we're just going to surreptitiously Option click and remove that little bit at the top. There we go. Look at that. Woo! Now it's got a little bit more life. It's got a little bit more energy about it, hasn't it? Surprising what colour can do. It's magnificent. Are you getting excited yet about chocolate? I've been eating chocolate all morning, by the way. Literally, I'm not even just saying that for the video. I've actually just been eating chocolate all morning in the studio. I was singing, playing the guitar and eating chocolate. It's like my perfect, it's like heaven. It really is. It's ridiculous. So that was what I was doing this morning. And now, look at it, we're designing chocolate. What? 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 Are you serious? Yeah. Look at that. That's starting to be something. It's not quite there yet. Let's try this. Maybe we should change this over here to yellow. No. Pink. No. Blue. Surely not. No. Pink. No. Yellow. No. All of them I think back to white. What about this here? Blue? No. Absolutely not. We don't have enough contrast with the brown behind. We can't do that. How about yellow? That works, doesn't it? That's actually quite nice. I like it. Let's use it like that. All right, now, I think this I'm going to put back to white, actually. Yeah. Now, I'm not sure if this is really totally it yet. It's got kind of what I'm looking for. I'm going to play around with it a little bit more. So let's separate this one. I'm going to move this away from all these. I might take this bit, though, actually. We do need to have something over here that says, you know, the flavour of the chocolate, so to speak, the type of chocolate it is, right? And then we're going to have this 70%, because, you know, there's that kind of like how much of it is cacao or what have you. Business, all that business. Well, let's put that like that. Lovely, lovely. All right, nice. Oh, I love it. Move that up a little bit. All right. This is bold. I wonder, they have a demi version of this font. I think I might switch it to the demi. I can't see any difference. That's bold. This is demi. Have I not got it selected right? That's the trouble, isn't it? Oh, now it's bold. Doesn't look a whole lot different, to be honest with you. This is bold. This is demi. Oh, I can see it now. So on the demi one, the problem is that my M is kind of overlapping weird, isn't it? I think this still needs a little bit of work on this logo, actually. Now I look at it, I'm going to outline this type. So I'm going to, first of all, let's bring this and put it into its own artboard. I'm going to make a new Illustrator file. Okay, well, let's put this all by itself. And then let's also separate it onto different layers. I've brought it into this new file, it's all by itself. I want to do a couple of things. One of the things I want to do is to readjust the logo. I'd switched it from bold, where this was going to get covered up, and then I need to readjust the tracking a little bit here. I also think at this point I need to convert this to outlines and do this a little bit more precisely. So I'm going to do Shift Command O, Shift Control O if you're on a PC. This outlines the type. We've done this quite a few times I think now. I'm also going to separate it onto its own layer. So let's go to Layers and we'll call this Logo. And then we're going to drag this little blue square at the end of layer 1 up onto that logo layer. So this is on that layer. And I'm going to hide the other stuff for right now. And I'm going to go into outline mode, Command Y or Control Y if you're on a PC. By going into outline mode, I can see just the shape itself without the fill. So right now the fill is white, so we actually don't see anything at all. But in outline mode I can see the shape, and I'm going to move it so that these basically kiss each other, they touch each other, these shapes. Now it's a little bit tricky to do because the movement is so small. I'm actually going to move it away slightly and then bring it back in so that we can see that smart guide when it touches. I'm going to do the same thing with these next two characters. So I'm going to select these two. I'm going to zoom out and then zoom back in so I can see what I'm doing. Let's move this out of the way a little bit and then let's drag it back in until it touches. So I think I got that in the right place. Yep. And then I want to select this next letter. So if I hold Shift and drag over, I can add to the selection by holding Shift. I'm going to again move this away a little bit and then let's drag it from this anchor point until it touches the letter R. You can see that the smart guides tell us that it's touching. If you don't see those smart guides are under View, Smart Guides right here. And then I'm going to add to the selection by holding Shift and I'm going to drag over the letter R and select that. And I'm going to move this out until it touches the G. And then here the M needs to come back a little bit. This should probably fit exactly, but let's just make sure. So I'm going to go into preview mode and I'm actually going to change it to black for right now so that I can see it better. Well, actually, so I can see it at all. So in preview mode now it looks like this. The other thing I want to try here is where these letters overlap or where they interconnect with the Y and the M. I'm going to try using the Shape Builder tool and removing this little piece by holding Option so that that letter actually curves into the other one. I think that that might make it, first of all, a little bit more unique and give it a little bit more flow. I'm not sure if I like that actually. So this is what it was like before. Let's make a duplicate so that we can see these in comparison with each other. So this is what it's like with that shape. I'm holding Option, clicking to get rid of that. And that's what it's like without it. I am still not totally sure. This is something that I also want to try doing with it whilst we're at it. Let's see if I move these over each other. If we can get away with having that do that and we still read it as an R, and I think I kind of do, I think I prefer the way that that creates this sort of rhythm. Let's see if I can push it even further, sort of merging the letters together. So let's try doing this. Let's move this one over to there. I'm going to go into outline mode again. When I drag it in, I want to position it exactly on that edge. It's not actually giving me a smart guide there, but I think I'm basically on it then. Let's select over these. Let's take this bit off. Let's have a look at that. Then this starts to look like an R, doesn't it? So we can't do that. So I think that this is probably, I'm going to have it for right now. So we've got that. It also has that other element to it. So I'm going to put this where the original one was. Let's put the artwork back on. So this one I'm going to remove it. And this one. Actually this one, let's just do Command 5 so that I have a guide for it. And then we'll use this one up here. Move it over a little bit now. The only thing with me moving the G over to the R is that it has actually brought this in too close to that element, and it doesn't feel like I can center it quite as well. So let's see if I center this onto the package. I like the way that this connected with the letter R here, like this was line up with that. Here it feels a little bit more awkward to me, but maybe I'll get used to that. Alright, I think I'll leave it like that. Alright, so now I've got to this point. What I wanted to show you as part of this demonstration is how you could put this into a mock-up. So here's an example of a Photoshop mock-up. This is actually a package design that I'd done in last semester's class. So this gives you an idea of what I'm sort of aiming at. I had designed this logo for Nantwich chocolate, and then Dabba's Delight is the flavor. Dark chocolate flavored with rosewater, bergamot, and orange. And then these are examples of the orange, bergamot, and rosewater. So rosewater, bergamot, and orange. That's what it was. 85%, and then the net weight. And then this is the side of the box. So if we look at this, the way that these Photoshop mock-ups work is that you'll have these smart object layers. So you can see on this one, which is labeled front, if I double click on it, it'll open up a new Photoshop file. This is called layer1.psb. And then inside here, it's got the artwork that's being used. If I want to bring this artwork in, all right, so I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go into Photoshop. And actually, let's also add some layers to this. So I've got the logo on one layer. Let's put this onto another layer. So this is going to be small bolt. We'll have this one on another layer, and we'll call this large bolt. And then I'm going to put this text on its own layer. I don't actually think that this goes terribly well with this. I might look at this again, but we're going to bring it into Photoshop, and we can kind of manipulate it further there. So I'm going to put this on its own layer, and I'll call this fruit and nut. We'll put 70% on its own layer. Not quite sure why I have those separated actually. They could really be on the same layer, but for right now I'll leave that as it is. And then I've got coffee and chocolate on its own layer. So let's create a new layer for that. And then I've got this protein, 15 grams, 150 milligrams of caffeine. So we'll just call this one protein and then take that up. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a new layer. I select the item. So in this case, it's that piece of text at the bottom. And then I drag that selection indicator, that blue square or that colored square at the end of the layer, up to the new layer. Then on the bottom here, I've got this brown shape. So I'm going to drag this up here and call this bottom shape. And then I'll call this background. So now if I option click on this layer, that's the only thing that's on that layer. That's the only thing on that layer. So we've separated everything onto different layers. Now if I select everything and do copy, we can go up into this Photoshop file, paste this. I'm going to paste it as layers. We could also, by the way, paste it as a smart object, which would link us back to the Illustrator file. And there's an advantage to that. But the reason I brought it in as layers is that I wanted to talk about how we could move all of this together. So let's have this set to group, so I can take this whole group and move it around. And let's scale this to the size that I want it. So I'm just going to drag out, not holding shift. Now this proportion of this actually is a little different than I designed it. So we're going to have to move things around a little bit anyway. I'm going to move this up a little bit further. Okay, so I'm still not digging this type here. I think it's the wrong font that I've got. So if we look at these, they're all broken up into groups, but I have a group for fruit and nuts, and inside there I've got this type layer. So if I double click on that, we could look at some other fonts. I want to try it again in this font. So this one right here is, the logo has actually been made into a shape, so that's no good. Let's try the protein one. So this is all round Gothic. Okay, so let's try fruit and nut in that. It might be too big. Let's try the size smaller. There's 70% also, so let's go into 70%. Select that. All round Gothic. And scale that down also. So I'm not sure what size I had the other type. Let's just check here. So the fruit and nut is 24 point. Okay, so let's set the 70% to the same. So 24 point. Okay. Still not completely happy with this. I might have to actually rearrange things a little bit because I'm not happy with it. But the reason I brought it into here anyway is to show you how to use the mockup. So I've brought it in here. I'm going to save this file. Then I'm going to close it. Now if we go into here, you can see that we have this set up in that mockup now. The background color, I can double click on it. I can eyedropper a color from here. Or I could add whatever color I wanted into there, obviously. So I think I'm going to use that color. So that's how you can use these Photoshop mockups. Remember that I think one of the best websites for this is unblast.com, but you can get them from all over the place. So if I go to mockups and I type in chocolate, so if I just type in chocolate, you can see there's quite a few mockups that you could download for this kind of thing. So here's another example. I have a few that I've done previously, so that was the one that I just opened up. Here's another example. So you can see on this one, again, it's that Nantwich chocolate, fruit and nuts. This is just a different kind of package example. So I'm not sure I like this one quite as much, but nevertheless, if I double click on here, I can go in here and I can add my graphics. If I used it as a smart layer, so if I do copy here and then bring this into this in Photoshop and paste it, and I'll paste it as a smart object. The advantage of doing it this way, and I need to bring this above here, is that it's still linked to the Illustrator file. So if I want to make edits in the Illustrator file, it'll show up in here. Okay, once I'm happy with that, I'll save it, close it, and then this is what it looks like in this mockup. And again, the background color, we could always change it and so on. That's it for this video.